Good morning, Unity Center family. Boy, this is a first. This is certainly different. Welcome to our very first Facebook Live virtual Sunday morning service. Not quite sure how the service is going to flow without our wonderful Janet Hammer, music director, and our amazing Soul Notes band. But what's most important is we are here together doing the best we can to connect with one another virtually. And what I believe with all my heart and soul is that this is a time for us to really be deep into our spiritual practice. And so if you're joining us for the very first time this morning, maybe a friend said, hey, come check out my minister and the Unity Center experience. If this is your very, very first time, I welcome you into my home. And one day I hope to welcome you into our beautiful Unity Center community and campus located in San Diego on Activity Road. So I'm going to attempt to start the way that we usually do on Sunday morning, with the striking and the playing of our antique Tibetan singing bowl. So here we go. And so allow yourself just to listen to these sounds. And I know they may sound a little bit different than they do on Sunday morning when we have our perfect setup for sound and all of that. But do your best to listen to the sound and allow it to help you just begin to settle into this time and space and this experience that we truly are co-creating together. As you continue to listen to the sound radiating outward, perhaps you can imagine our consciousness of love and calm and compassion radiating outward from wherever you are right now, extending beyond your personal space, far, far out to touch others with kindness and love and compassion. Namaste. If you happen to be sitting with somebody right now watching this, maybe a family member, friend, or even your pet, perhaps you can do the namaste greeting to them. Namaste, meaning that which is divine and holy in me recognizes that which is divine and holy in you as well. Namaste. I do want to share with you a prayer that I shared last Sunday, and it was so well received. I want to share it again in hopes that you will extend this out to others that you know. Unfortunately, I don't know to whom to attribute this, but it's a beautiful prayer. It's called a Prayer for a Pandemic. May we who are merely inconvenienced remember those whose lives are at stake. May we who have no risk factors remember those most vulnerable. May we who have the luxury of working from home remember those who must choose between preserving their health or making their rent. May we who have the flexibility to care for our children when schools close remember those who have no options. May we who have to cancel our trips remember those that have no safe place to go. May we who are losing our margin money in the tumult of the economic market remember those who have no margin at all. May we who settle in for a quarantine at home remember those who have no home. As fear grips our country, let us choose love. During this time when we cannot physically wrap our arms around each other, let us yet find ways to be the loving embrace of God to our neighbors. Amen. After the prayer, we would have been blessed with beautiful music from our Soul Notes band and from our music director, Janet Hammer, or one of our guest artists. And before I go into the readings that I have for us today that support the lesson and the message I want to share, I wanted to read to you something from Janet Hammer, our music director. It came into me yesterday. She writes, "Dear Unity family, as I sit here in my home this Sunday morning, watching Reverend Wendy conduct a solo service from afar, as you are now, I am reminded of how blessed I have been for the past 20 years as music director of the Unity Center, to be part of such a wonderful spiritual family, as well as such an important spiritual movement in our world. We know the truth that spirit is always connected, no matter how far apart we are on the physical plane. None of us knows where this will land or how long the ride, but one thing is for sure. We have each other in prayer and good thought as we make our own sacrifices for the health and well-being of each other. There are blessings to be found in the opportunities each day to slow our pace of living, to be inward seeking for our own strength and comfort, hold each other up in prayer, and to set new priorities going forward into this new uncharted territory. I want to thank each of you for your support over the years, for your comments of how much the music touches you on a Sunday morning, for your smiles back up at me from the congregation as I'm singing to you from the platform, for all the ways you have shown your appreciation for the job I do at the Unity Center, and of course, for my amazing music team, J.R. Betts, Vince Cooper, Kevin Dow, and Cecil McBee, and all of our awesome singers. We look forward to making beautiful music together again for you at the Unity Center, but until then, please keep the music in your hearts. Find ways to sing together with your loved ones, put on some positive message music, let the music keep playing, and your soundtrack to this episode be one of inspiration, connectedness, and peace. Blessings, Janet Hammer, our music director. What I want you to know from our staff and from our board, We will be doing everything we can. In fact, we already have things in place to support our music team financially during these times to the extent that we are able, as well as our full staff. That's really, really important to us, to take care of the people that help support everything that we offer at the Unity Center. So we were, and are, in an exploration of Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection. And I had to chuckle a little bit about that because, boy, am I at the very edge of my comfort zone, sitting here trying to deliver to you a meaningful message in a way that sounds good and will work, and hopefully this is working. But as a way to connect with you and to say that, the gifts of imperfection, when we live our lives to the fullest, we have to be flexible, we have to be learning, we have to be growing, and sometimes in the learning of new things, like for me, learning this new technology on the fly, we may fumble. It may not sound so great, it may not go off so well, but you know what? If we're coming from our heart and we're doing the best that we can, and we're here to be of service to one another, then that's what really matters. So, in continuing in this series on the Gifts of Imperfection, today's normally scheduled message for Sunday, March 22nd, get this, is to be on cultivating calm and stillness, letting go of anxiety as a lifestyle. Could anything be much more perfect than that right now, cultivating calm and stillness? And so I'll be sharing some of Brene's thoughts about that, obviously, and many of my own. But here are some readings I had selected to support this message. The first is from Ian Gardner. Being still doesn't mean don't move. It means move in peace. From Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching, one of my favorite sacred texts. Be still like a mountain and flow like a great river. Can you get a sense of that? To be still like a mountain, to be solid, still like a mountain, and flow like a great river. Boy, if anything, these rapidly changing situations we're finding ourselves in because of the coronavirus is demanding of us to be more fluid, to be more flexible than perhaps we've ever had to be before. This is one from James Carroll. There are times when we stop, we sit still, we listen, and breezes from a whole other world begin to whisper. When breezes from a whole other world begin to whisper. And this one from Morgan Freeman. Learning how to be still, to really be still and let life happen. That stillness becomes a radiance. This next one, I don't know to whom to attribute it. Peace, it does not mean to be in a place where there is no noise, trouble, or hard work. It means to be in the midst of those things and still be calm in your heart. And one last one again, I don't know to whom to credit it. Calm is finding stillness in the moment instead of waiting for life to change. And so, without the blessing of our beautiful chanting that we usually have on a Sunday morning, we're still going to move into a time now of prayer and meditation. So I invite you to just sit back in your chair. Maybe you're still in your jammies. Maybe you've got a cup of coffee next to you, or maybe you have your pet cat or your pet dog on your lap. Whatever helps you to feel more calm and quiet. Go ahead and relax and sit back. Close your eyes. Listen again to these sounds, and I'll take us into a time of meditation in just a moment. sitting in meditation with eyes closed as a way to shut out the distractions that may be happening around us. Allow your attention to center on your breath, being gently aware of the breath in and of the breath out, of the breath in and of the breath out. Continuing to be aware of the breath. With the next exhalation, practice deeply letting go. Letting go. With the next exhalation, practice being fully present, right where you are. And with the next exhalation, practice a feeling of opening up. Continue in that cycle for a few breaths. Aware of the breath in, aware of the breath out, letting go, aware of the breath in, aware of the breath out, being present, aware of the breath in, aware of the breath out, opening up, opening up. Continuing to be aware of the breath, allow your attention to move to the area of the heart, the center of your chest. And if it's helpful, you might even place your hand on your heart. Being fully present to the breath in and to the breath out. With each breath out, letting go a bit more. With each breath out, letting go a bit more. With each breath in, breathing in, feeling of peace and calm. With each breath in, breathing in a feeling of peace and calm. Imagining that each mindful breath is moving through the area of the heart. With attention focused in the area of the heart and aware of each mindful breath, you begin to experience, at least right here and right now, a deep sense of being okay. Right where you are, right now. No matter what is going on around you or in the world, in this place in consciousness, in this experience of sharing the field of consciousness, you are okay. Breathe in and out that feeling. Calm and centered. Imagining that feeling of calm, that feeling of peace, filling your entire being. And as you continue to be aware of the breath, as you continue to have attention focused in the heart, practicing that feeling of calm, you begin to get in touch with the truth that you are more than this physical being. And that with every mindful breath, every conscious breath, every breath of peace, you not only breathe that into yourself, but you are able to breathe that out around you. For if anything, this time is reflecting back to us that we are one. We are one. And we know in the deepest part of our being the power of a field of calmness, that too can be contagious. And so as we pray and meditate in these days to come, let us see this time of meditation, this practice of calmness and stillness and peace, being a powerful radiating force to help not only us be centered and calm and peaceful, but helping us to be one that amplifies that and lifts up the whole field of consciousness to a place of peace and calm. And so it is. Namaste. And though I don't have a wonderful, powerful, beautiful solo piece of music to introduce to you right now, I do want to invite you to just kind of move a little bit and make sure that you are able to come out of this time of meditation together as I share with you some ideas from Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, and some of my thoughts about this idea of cultivating calm and stillness. Say that to yourself right now. Cultivating calm and stillness. You know, I mentioned this last week, and I want to repeat it again here, that we are experiencing something that has not ever been experienced before in quite this way. Yes, there have been pandemics before, but not ever at a time when we could be so instantaneously and so globally connected with one another, with the ability to share information and thoughts and feelings as we are experiencing right now. That this truly is a global timeout. And I couldn't help but think when I was reflecting on this idea of a global timeout, for those of you who are parents, perhaps you have from time to time had to use with your children timeout, giving the kids or saying to the kids, you need a timeout. And usually when as a parent we say that to a child, what we're trying to do is to break a certain set of behaviors or activities that were just happening, that we're trying to help that child step back and break whatever that behavior was. And knowing as we do as parents that giving them a timeout to sit and be quiet and reflect can bring about some positive changes. And so I think that it is as if the whole universe is saying to us right now, global timeout, gotta step back. The whole human family gotta step back, take a major timeout to rethink things, to recalibrate, and to look anew at, well, maybe to look back at what we've been doing and how we've been behaving and how we've been acting and what were our priorities, to the changes we might need to make, to what that deeper inner voice maybe has been saying to us all along. So anyway, cultivating calmness and stillness. One of the things I like so much about Brene Brown, and I imagine many of you do as well, is just how vulnerable and authentic she is. She's studied it, she's researched it, and I think she's that herself. And one of the things that she noticed as she was working and interviewing some of her folks who live from this wholehearted place is that she said her research started to get real personal. It started to do a number on her and what she wanted and how she was living her life. In fact, she shared in this chapter how she realized how very out of balance her life had become and how she wanted more of what she was learning about from the people that she was studying. Here's a statement she made in that chapter. I didn't need to figure out a way to keep going with this level of anxiety. I needed to figure out how to be less anxious. When I first read that in her book, I thought, boy, I don't need, personally, Wendy doesn't need to learn how to get any better organized or how to fit any more things into a day. I need to learn how to simplify. And so often when we are looking, when we're willing to be vulnerable and look deep inside of ourselves, we're given insights into what it is that we need to change, what's not working. And that doesn't make us bad or wrong. I think it makes us aware. And as you've heard me saying again and again, until we are aware, we can't begin to make the changes that can help us improve our life. Now is truly a perfect time to not only deepen our spiritual practice, but I think it's a time to depend on our spiritual practice. Not only a time to deepen our spiritual practice, but a time to depend on it. I know in this last week, as the Unity Center has had to figure out how do we virtually move everything that is done in person via a church campus and community online, that we have had to recalibrate, that we have had to, I know I've had to depend on my spiritual practice and my spiritual teachings to help me stay at least somewhat centered and calm to make the decisions that need to be made. And I can't emphasize enough to each of you how important that is right now. And you know what? I don't think we have the same excuses we had before in terms of, well, we just don't have enough time. You know what? I think we do. I think we do, and I think we can't use that any longer as an excuse for not developing and maintaining a solid spiritual life. We get that right, and everything else will fall into place. When Brene was interviewing, when Brene was conducting these interviews, she found that it wasn't that her interviewees didn't experience anxiety. It wasn't that they were anxiety-free, but instead they were anxiety aware. And again, here comes that word, aware. You know, we need to be able to name what it is that we are feeling. We need to be able to name what it is that we are experiencing. And when we can name it, I'm experiencing anxiety, I'm experiencing sadness, I'm experiencing fear, I'm experiencing worry, whatever it is. When we can name it and be aware of it, then we can begin to diminish it. It's as if in honoring the fact that that's where we are in that moment is what helps us to be able to begin to decrease the intensity of that feeling. Her interviewee said that the way they worked with anxiety was by cultivating calm and stillness. And Brene brought forth an interesting idea, and in her mind, calmness and stillness are not the same thing. This is how she defines calm: creating perspective and mindfulness while managing emotional reactivity. Let me say that again. Calm is creating perspective and mindfulness while managing emotional reactivity. That's powerful, because We are in circumstances right now that can bring out the best in us or bring out the worst in us. We can develop the ability to manage our emotional reactivity. And one of the ways we do it is by bringing perspective and mindfulness into the situation. Do we really need a bazillion rolls of toilet paper? Do we really need a 10-foot tall stack of water? And I'm not saying you are doing this, but what I am saying is there is evidence of that having been going on all around us. That's not an example of perspective. That is living from a place of fear and living from a place of realizing or not realizing how important it is that we move out of the mindset of only being concerned about ourselves and our own. Yes, we do need to take care of reasonable needs for ourselves and for our families. Yes, we be pragmatic, but we don't be selfish. We don't be greedy. That's managing emotional reactivity and maintaining perspective. Brene says, calm people are people who can bring perspective to complicated situations and feel their feelings without reacting to heightened emotions. So when we feel those emotions coming up, we stop. We go, oh, I'm feeling anxious. Oh, here comes some fear. Oh, here comes some panic. Let me stop. Let me take a few deep breaths in and out, and let me connect with my heart, and let me try to practice perspective. I remember a teaching that was shared with me many years ago, and I tried to find the exact wording of this teaching, this quote, and wasn't able to, but I can at least share the gist of it with you. And it is the idea that the person who can be a non-anxious presence in an anxious world will be seen as a leader, whether designated or not. If you are a member of the Unity Center community, if you are a part of the Worldwide Unity Movement or our wonderful New Thought family consisting of Centers for Spiritual Living, if you're part of the New Thought movement, let us take up the mantle and the responsibility and the assignment to individually be that non-anxious presence in what right now is a pretty anxious and chaotic world. Brene further writes that we are to be slow to respond and quick to think. Slow to respond, but quick to think. Consider the effect that calm has on an anxious person or a situation. A panicked response produces more panic or fear, right? You know, if you're in a situation where you're dealing, for example, with a client or a customer who's angry and upset, one of the first things you learn is that if you meet the energy of anger with anger, the situation's going to escalate. If we meet the energy of panic with panic, the situation escalates. But if we can meet the energy of fear and panic with some calmness and some reasonableness, we can help to de-escalate it. Anxiety and fear are contagious, there's no question about that. But so is calmness and kindness and reasonableness. They too are contagious. I was talking to our son Jonathan, I don't know, it seems like this week has felt more like a year, but I was talking to Jonathan. He lives in Northern California, and this was the day before the San Francisco Bay Area was on lockdown. And he said, you know, Mom, I went with my friend Mike to our favorite coffee shop, and it was virtually empty, but we wanted to support the coffee shop, you know, and we were very careful about making sure our hands were clean and all of those kinds of things that we know to do. And when we walked up to the person waiting on us, we were just calm and chatting with her, and she just looked at us and said, you have no idea how refreshing and good it is to hear you and see you come in and talk the way that you are. I've been dealing with so many angry customers, so many people who are afraid and rude, and I just want to thank you for showing up the way that you did. See, we never know who we are influencing, but what is absolutely true is we're influencing people all of the time. So calmness and kindness and reasonableness are every bit as contagious as anxiety and fear. And one thing that I think is really important to also keep in mind, calmness doesn't mean we don't know what's going on. We do know what's going on. But it means that we also recognize that just because there's chaos around us does not mean we have to get sucked into it. It's not that we're ignorant. It is not that we're in denial. We are fully aware of the seriousness of what's going on around us, but we also know the power of the field of consciousness. And we're going to live from that truth and demonstrate to the best of our ability, it may not be perfect, but to the best of our ability, what it means to be a spiritually awake presence. Maybe some of you saw the little quote that I put out the other day, the invitation to remember to stay calm, my acronym for calm: stay compassionate, stay awake, stay loving, and stay mindful. A few words on Brene Brown. In this chapter, she's writing about cultivating calm and stillness, and I shared with you a few moments ago that she sees stillness and calmness as both essential, but as different. She writes, stillness is an integral part of the wholehearted journey. From meditation and prayer to regular periods of quiet reflection and alone time, wholehearted people spoke about the necessity of quieting their bodies and minds as a way to feel less anxious and overwhelmed. And then she shares about her she's vulnerable again, and she shares about what she had to overcome as she was listening to this idea, I guess, of stillness, that she had a very narrow concept of it, and her vision was sitting cross-legged on the floor, focusing on that elusive nothingness. And that's really not what her research revealed. What her data revealed was that stillness is not about focusing on nothingness. It's about creating a clearing. Think about that for a moment. It's about creating a clearing. A spaciousness is the way I would also word it. It's opening up an emotionally clutter-free space and allowing ourselves to feel and think and dream and question. Yesterday, as John and Jennifer and I were trying to get ready to put together this live Facebook broadcast, we were dealing with more than our fair share of crazy, unexpected challenges. I spent about 2.5 hours on the phone with my brother trying to help him set up an iPad that we got for my 84-year-old mom, and my brother is not an Apple person, he is an Android person. So he was trying to set up an Apple product, swearing that Apple products are nowhere near as intuitive as the Android world, and we're trying to set up my mom's iPad, and after about 2.5, 3 hours, we got that done, and I needed a break. I needed a break. I had thought my whole day yesterday was going to be about being calm and being able to be in control of what I was going to do so that I could be fully prepared to be here with you. And so the very next thing I got sucked into is we were told that somebody had hacked my Facebook account. We discovered it wasn't hacked. It was something to do with Messenger account. And so we were scrambling last minute. All this is by way of saying that life happens. And our spiritual practice does not prevent these things from happening, but it does give us an anchor to come back to hold on to be able to move through these times. What I finally found, going back to Brene's idea of stillness and about creating a clearing, I found that all I needed to do was go outside and go for a long walk. And to do it this time without any devices, without my iPhone, without any music, without trying to fit in some iPod and learn anything, but just to be quiet and still. And it sounds funny, doesn't it? Because how can you be still when you're walking? But there's a way to do that, because stillness isn't just about the physicalness. It's about what's going on inside. And so I found that just being able to create that clearing, that space, for that period of time, shifted as much as could be shifted. Brene writes that fear is a significant barrier to stillness. She writes, if we stop long enough to create a quiet, emotional clearing, the truth of our lives will invariably catch up with us. We convince ourselves that if we stay busy enough and keep moving, reality won't be able to keep up. So we stay in front of the truth about how tired and scared and confused and overwhelmed we sometimes feel. Of course, the irony is that the whole thing that's wearing us down is trying to stay out in front of feeling worn down. This is a self-perpetuating quality of anxiety. It feeds on itself. I often say that when they start having 12-step meetings for busyaholics, they'll need to rent out whole stadiums. I think she's absolutely right. What I notice in what she's writing about here is that sometimes I think we fill our lives up with so much to do as a way of not getting deeper into the inner realms of ourselves and really creating that stillness and that space to listen for that still small voice within that maybe is trying to say to us, you know what? Some of the things that you've thought were so important in your life, maybe they're not. Maybe it's time to simplify things a bit. Maybe it's time to get back to some basics. Maybe it's time to make those you love the number one priority in your life. Maybe it's time to go deeper into what is your true reason for being here. What is the purpose that you are being called to live from? And so, as I begin to close this time together today, I want to share with you this thought. Maybe what we're really being invited to do in this global timeout is to truly step back and to truly recalibrate, our lives individually, and I dare say, to be willing as a country and as a human family to recalibrate on that larger scale as well. We are on a global timeout. Let us use it wisely. We are in a global timeout. Let us use it wisely. Namaste. And so, we would be coming to our offering time, and this probably looks really funny, but I'm going to just pretend that we are still in the church doing our service, and at this point we would be acknowledging those who are here with us for the first time. And as I said in my opening welcome, if you are tuning in to this broadcast having never been part of the Unity Center before, I do want to invite you, if you live in the San Diego area, to come and be with us sometime. I also want to share with you some announcements, some important information so that you know what we're doing to be able to be of support to you, our beloved Unity family. So as you know, all of our in-person gatherings are postponed. Please do be patient with us, as it's likely going to be a while before we are able to figure out when and how we reschedule things. Also know that our staff is working remotely. They are doing a fabulous job supporting me and trying to put in place all the mechanisms that we need to virtually turn the Unity Center into a virtual community. Also want you to know that phone messages to the Unity Center can be retrieved remotely. So what that means is you can call the regular church number, and that's 858-689-6500, and you can leave a message there. That message will be routed to the right person, but please be patient. We have no idea how many phone calls will be coming in, and staff is juggling a lot. They'll do their very best to respond to your phone calls and to your emails. We've also started making wellness calls to some of our members, and we're going to amp that up this week. You can help us out greatly if you know of somebody in our community that needs some extra support right now. I don't know if we're equipped to provide all the support that may be needed, but at least give us a chance and let us know who you might be aware of that needs some help. And we'll try to see if we can at least cause that to happen some way. We will continue to offer our Sunday service live at 10 o'clock via Facebook on the Unity Center page. So whatever you did to join us today would be what you can do to join us going forward. If you don't catch us live, you can still find the service on our Facebook page by scrolling down, and it will remain there. You can also find what we've done here today on our YouTube channel. It will be uploaded to our YouTube channel shortly after this live broadcast. Staff and prayer partners are working on best ways to offer prayer support at this time. I believe an email went out on Saturday explaining how that will be handled in the short term. We're also planning on offering a midweek centering prayer time. As you might imagine, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes details being worked out to essentially move the Unity Center entirely online and virtual for this time period. Again, we appreciate your patience. Please, 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 please be sure to check your emails from the Unity Center. You may have to check your spam or your junk folder often. A lot of our mail just keeps going there. But most of the communication of how to stay in touch with us or how to join a Zoom discussion group or so forth is going to be given to you via email. So please be sure that you check your email often. We'll be using Zoom to connect in small groups. So you'll want to be sure to download Zoom if you don't already have it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, pay attention to the email that was sent out, I believe on Friday, that gave detailed instructions on how to join Zoom. You can get a free account. I will be experimenting with it for the first time this afternoon. Early this morning, I sent an e-blast out to everyone who participates in the Sunday morning discussion groups. Should have received an email from me this morning with a Zoom link to join me and hopefully Mike Bugera in leading a discussion group. And remember to stay calm, compassionate, aware, loving, and mindful. We can make it through this together. And so as we get ready to bless our offering, I'd like to ask you to just hold in thought our church community. And we know the power of giving and receiving. And so we bless virtually the gifts that have been shared and will be shared with the Unity Center, holding them in our consciousness, holding them in our thoughts, blessing them with this affirmation. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I give and all that I receive. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Amen. Know that we will be holding you in our prayers for abundance at this time as well. And let us close now with our prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, wherever we go, God is, and all is well. Namaste.